It was a good day for John Fisher's wallet. It was a bad day for Oakland fans. But let's not pretend that John Fisher actually cares about the Oakland Athletics. As Clevelanders, we should know a little bit something about losing your team, and we should stand in solidarity with the Oakland fans because you never know when it's going to be your team next. We'll touch on that, whether or not José Ramirez can contend for another MVP in the future. We'll take another look at the Guardians' starting pitching depth and some players not added to the 40-man roster on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Justin Ladd. Before we get started today, I want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics to treat over 50 infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASCmedical.com. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day wherever you get podcasts. We're free everywhere. You can get podcasts. We're on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we're still creeping towards that 2,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. Would love to get there by the end of the year, by the end of 2023. So again, if you haven't subscribed yet and you like the show, hit that button to subscribe. And if you think there's any friends out there would enjoy some Guardians content in the off season, we're going to keep bringing you 5 episodes a week throughout the off season. We'll probably take a smaller break on Thanksgiving with the holidays, but we're going to be here covering your team every day, 5 days a week, whatever happens this offseason, whether or not there's more money cutting spending or if there's any big trades that happen. Speaking of money cutting or money going into someone's wallet, I got to be honest, I was pretty fired up today about the approval of the Oakland Athletics moving to Las Vegas. And I don't like telling fans how to feel. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. It's not what we do here. But I would think if you're a Cleveland sports fan, even if you're not a Browns fan, if you're a Cleveland sports fan, look, we've seen a team in Cleveland be gone before we moved to another city before. We've been through that, whether or not you're a Browns fan or not. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a Browns fan. The team, I was like 6 when Cleveland moved to Baltimore, and they came back, and that was my introduction to the NFL for the most part. So I'm pretty lukewarm on a pretty terrible franchise. But that doesn't mean I can't understand the pain of losing that team. And that means we should understand what's going on in Oakland too. And I was pretty fired up about the comments that John Fisher had about how it's a bad day for Oakland, but a great day for Las Vegas. It was a good day for John Fisher's wallet. Let's just call it what it is. It was a good day for the man's wallet. This is a guy who inherited his billions from a company he didn't start and a team he just absolutely sank to the absolute bottom with on purpose to get out of there. And all 30 owners that approved this, they should be shamed. They approved this team moving to another city. Well, it's not the first time a baseball team has moved, but it's always a tragedy when it is. That team, the bills might be paid by a billionaire. And, if we're being honest, I understand this sport doesn't exist without billionaires writing the checks for the players' salaries and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that is what it is. And there's people who are going to gripe about that. But at the end of the day, there's none of these sports exist without fans either. That we're the ones giving them our money to keep this thing going, and the TV situation is directly tied into that, right? We see that we have cord cutters that are directly affecting cable subscriptions, that are directly affecting how much money goes into TV contracts, and it's starting to bleed a little bit on the TV side of things. Maybe we should do the same thing to owners like John Fisher and get him out of baseball because he's what's bad for baseball. He's bad for sports. And this can be applied to any owner. Don't own a team if you're not going to spend. Just don't. Stop. And this is why every owner would do the same exact thing. This is why I'm fired up, and this is why I think people should really be in solidarity with Oakland fans, because this is any team, this is any owner. And obviously you got your New Yorks and your LAs and your Philadelphias. None of those teams have any shot of ever being uprooted. That they're good there. But your Cleveland's, your Milwaukee's, Oakland, Arizona, I don't know, any of those teams could be uprooted and moved, right? If it's not you now, it could be you in the future. And that's why all 30 owners voted for this. And the owners don't even appear to like John Fisher that much or don't trust him because they put in a clause upon voting for the move to Las Vegas that said John Fisher would be taxed heavily if he turned around and tried to sell the team once they moved to LA to try to turn a profit very quickly. So the owners kind of think that he might do something like that. He might move the team out of Oakland and try to turn around and sell it and cash in. And that's why they put the provision in that he would be taxed heavily if he did. So the other owners don't even trust John Fisher, but they voted for this. And they voted for it because if they ever want to move the team, they want all 20 other owners to vote for the same thing. It's sad. There are no good billionaires. There are no good owners in sports. It's sad. It's pathetic. And Rod Manfred, same thing. Absolutely pathetic. Said that it was a question asked of him about whether he thought John Fisher was a good owner or not. And he said, I think over the course of the long term, he's been a pretty good owner. Yeah, well, Rob Manfred gets paid $25 million a year to shill for the owners. They're his bosses. What else is he going to say? I'd debase myself publicly, too, if I made $25 million a year. I guess I can't blame him. You give me $25 million a year, I'll probably say whatever you want to say. $25 million a year. Money insulates you from any sort of criticism. They don't care. I don't believe that Rob Manfred that cares about the sport. I believe he cares about the money. Same with the owners. It's a business, and I get it. And if I'm being honest with you, for a couple hours today, and maybe still, I'm racking my brain around this. It's hurting how I feel about the sport. I've loved the sport since I was 5, and my dad thought I was going to hate it, and because I was blowing dandelions in the outfield and not paying attention, and I asked him if we got hurt, if we got to go home. And for some stupid reason, I love this sport. I love the 90s Indians, and then the bond I created with my dad and the good memories I had here in Cleveland. It's why I love baseball today. And it's things like this that hurt my connection with baseball. And now Oakland fans are hurt. And I hope I've seen a lot of, I don't know if this for sure is true because you can't take social media as a real pulse of life, but I've seen a lot of apathy and even some disdain from Las Vegas residents on whether or not they want this team or not, or whether they wanted this move. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. It's sad. It's pathetic. And, I said as Clevelanders, we should understand. We should, feel that connection with Oakland fans for losing a team. I know there weren't a lot of fans. People are going to say, well, they didn't have any fans to begin with. They had diehard fans. They did. That stadium was in terrible shape. And I'm not believing any of the lies that John Fisher told about how hard they tried to get a new stadium, to do something to keep the team in Oakland. He could have sold the team to somebody else. They had a lot of options on the table. What it came down to is he wanted someone to finance a new stadium for him, and he wanted more money to do it. The reason he didn't take a deal was because they didn't offer enough money from taxpayers to keep the A's in Oakland. He wanted more money being spent by the public to build a new stadium, to bring a new place to life. He didn't want to spend his money that he didn't even earn, money that he inherited from a business he didn't start. So we should be sympathetic. And I'm not saying anybody should boycott anything. You do what you want, It's a short life, and we've got to hold on to the things that give us a little bit of joy. And, God knows there's a lot of things that bring us pain and apathy and all kinds of problems in the world, and we need to hang on to the things that do make us happy. So if baseball makes you happy, obviously it makes me happy, or it mostly does, except on days like today when this happens. We got to hold on to those things, but sometimes there's just a point where you've got to look at these things, and maybe I'm making a big deal over a franchise that may not matter all that much, but as Clevelanders, we should know how this feels. The Browns maybe had a little more root in Cleveland. They were started in Cleveland, and they were founded by, in the state where football, I think, was founded in Canton. Don't hold me to that. I probably should know better than that. And I know the A's weren't originally in Oakland, so maybe it's not a 1-to-1, comparison here. But we've lost a team before, and there are some passionate fans in Oakland, and I feel bad for them today, and I feel bad for where the sport is going, because it's just nothing but money grubbing everywhere, and money drives everything. And here we are. So I'll probably get over it. I'm sorry for starting this podcast off on such a negative note, but had to get off my chest. I don't like it, and I hope we can move on from it, but it's going to be awfully hard to get over. Maybe in time. Will time heal all wounds? I don't know. Will Oakland getting a team back make things better if there's some sort of expansion and new ballpark? I don't know. That could be years off. I guess we'll find out. MVPs were announced on Thursday, and Jose Ramirez finished again in the top 10. Is he going to find another chance to finish in the top 10, the top 3? Will he win an MVP? I don't know. We're going to take a look here in just a second. Before we take a look at Jose Ramirez's future MVP chances, let's have a quick personal chat. What are we doing about our health? We spent a lot of time talking about things that fire us up, like I did today. But health should get us fired up as well. And let's face it, medications, subscriptions are rising. Supply chain issues are an issue. And honestly, who wants to go refill subscriptions all the time with tedious trips to the pharmacy? I sure don't. And this is why Jase's case makes sense to me, because it is not only is it doctor created, doctor recommended, you can get up to a year's supply of medications, including ED medications, and you don't have to. They're cheaper than you would get just buying them over the counter. You don't have to go to the store to renew them. All it takes is to get a Jase case is fill out a form online. In some cases, jump on a quick call with one of the Jase Medical's board certified physicians. You can get ongoing care from them. Any treatment related questions. And honestly, the emergencies pop up too. You don't want to be caught unprepared. If an emergency happens, if you're traveling, everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jase case handles everything online, from an online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So if somebody you love or you would love to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jasemedical.com to see if that medication is offered. Use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase, in addition to getting better prices on over-the-counter medications and subscriptions. Also, before we get into the Jose Ramirez MVP or future MVP candidacy, I want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national 24/7 sports streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. Covering the top stories of the day with local experts from all of our Locked On Network channels, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube after you're done watching Locked On Guardians. Subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 sports streaming channel. So if you need more baseball news, God knows there's going to be a lot of it with winter meetings. I'm sure they'll have the Oakland situation covered. I know Sully is a passionate baseball fan, and he's a California guy, so I'm sure he's got a lot to say on the Oakland situation. So if you want to hear more on that and maybe another take on that, go check that out. Love Sully. Love Jose Ramirez too. So Jose Ramirez ends up finishing in the top 10 once again in MVP. He ends up finishing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, exactly 10th. Got 4 7th place votes. That's as high as he got. He got 5 9th place votes. Got to wonder, though, if Jose Ramirez is never going to chase down that elusive MVP, if Cleveland is ever going to get another MVP, at least in the near future. Still stuck on, the last one being Al Rosen in 1953. It's been a long drought. It's getting to be as long as the World Series drought. Can Jose Ramirez break that? We've talked on the show in the past whether or not Jose can break that streak if he can get an MVP. He's certainly the most deserving candidate since, maybe Albert Bell or Grady Sizemore. The numbers aren't that bad. Obviously this was, from an offensive standpoint, this is one of his lowest output years. And that's not to say he didn't have a good year. Let's be honest here. Jose Ramirez, still one of the best players in the league, still, a top 10 player. Everybody wants him. That's why John Morosi keeps trying to trade him to Seattle or God knows where else. But the numbers were down this year. The slugging percentage was down. The batting average was fine. OBP right where it was. Strikeout rate still very, very healthy. Actually, the lowest it's been since 2017 when he really hit his breakout. So not striking out a lot. The problem really was for him this year was maybe a little bit more aggression, less balls in the air, less fly balls this year. The power numbers not quite as good. Obviously, this is the first time he's had a slugging percentage below 500 since 2019 when he had that horrible first half when he was still struggling at the end of 2018. Lowest home run total since that year as well. So, and that was a fluke year. We knew what happened there. He got out of his usual approach to pulling the ball and hitting it in the air. He started, worrying about the shift, and people tried telling him to go their way with it. And then he got things back on track by just doing what he does best. And that's cranking everything he can to his pull side over the wall. And that's what got him back to MVP status again. And, this year things kind of faded a little bit. He still pulled the ball, quite a bit more than he did a year ago. But less than he did in 21, less than 20, although we're going to throw all the 20 numbers out the window. And Jose Ramirez is a guy who in the past has not really carried a lot of great batted ball data in terms of StatCast data. Like, he's never been in the upper percentiles of hard hit rate, of barrel rate, exit velocity, all those things. He has never been one of those super top tier guys. And the good news for him is he's not lost anything there. His exit velocity was actually at 90 this year, which is the best it's been outside of 2021. That was actually equal to it. So exit velocity was good this year. Max exit velocity was 111. That's 3 down from his peak. It's fantastic. His launch angle was down a little bit. We talked about him not hitting as many fly balls. The things that I look at most here are the chase rate. Now, he doesn't swing and miss a lot, but we did see some more chases this year, and some of that was on pitches that he probably should have avoided. This team really needs to take more walks. Jose is chief among them, even though he's got a 10% walk rate. He can do more. That this year at a 28.2 chase rate, 28.7 a year ago. These are his 2 highest chase rates of his career since he broke out in 2016. He has not had a chase rate that high since 2016 in the last 2 years. So, maybe there's some impatience there. Maybe he's trying to do too much. Wouldn't be shocked at all. The other thing I look at too is run value. Now, run value is pretty simplistic. It's not something you want to take too much to heart. And don't think I'm reading into this like this is anything that really absolutely matters and it's predictive. It may not be predictive at all, but it's kind of showing us what happened, and it's just a more simplistic view of maybe what happened and why Jose Ramirez's numbers were down this year. So positive run value, obviously good, negative bad. It just puts it on a spectrum. So for instance, Jose Ramirez in 2021, a run value of 16 against four-seam fastballs. That's fantastic. He was in the red that year. That was fantastic. And for a pitcher, you want it to be negative. So a hitter is better. This year it was 5. Last year it was 12 against four-seam fastballs. This year it was 5. So still positive, but down from the last 2 years. And the thing that's concerning is that usually when guys start to come down from their peak and you start to see problems is sometimes they're beat by good velocity and they stop hitting fastballs. So not the case with Jose yet. Numbers were still pretty solid, and actually expected stats against fastballs say that he should have done better. He got unlucky. So he had 278 against fastballs with a 500 slug. Expected stats say that he should have hit 306 with the 540 slug. So much better. And again, these aren't necessarily predictive. It's just a way to tell what happened, and maybe you can hope for some regression on some of these things. So it's just a way to look what happened. The thing that does kind of alarm me as well is negative run values against the changeup. Normally a pitch Jose handles very well. -5 this year. Last year it was a 5. The year before it was a 12. Historically, he's done very well against that pitch. And he was in the negative on sliders and curveballs. So this year, the only positives run value-wise from Jose Ramirez's production were on fastballs, four-seamers and sinkers and cutters. So he still handles the fastball well. And that's good for Jose because he should be hunting fastballs. That's the kind of hitter he is. He should be hunting fastballs. He crushes those. If you dare throw him one, he should punish it. But in the past, he's handled off-speed pitching a little bit better. So I don't know if it's an approach change. Guys are not throwing him a different pitch mix necessarily. It could be a different sequence. Maybe he's getting the same percentage of pitches that he normally gets in terms of changeup, slider, fastball, curve. Maybe it's a sequencing thing. I did not look that deep. But the other thing too is okay, so next year Steamer has Jose Ramirez projected at a 5.2 WAR with 27 homers, 23 doubles, and a 133 WRC plus. That's a fine year. That's basically what he did this year, and that's good. The problem is the field. You had Ohtani who won the MVP this year. If he stays in the AL, God, I don't know if he'll win it next year if he can't pitch. He's certainly a good enough hitter, but I guess that remains to be seen. He is just a DH. A lot of DHs don't always win. which is surprising for Yordan Alvarez, who's projected at 5.7 WAR next year by Fangraphs. And then you've got Aaron Judge, who had a down year, but projections still really like him. Julio Rodriguez continues to get a lot of hype. Adley Rutschman has a very high Steven projection next year. Corey Seager and Marcus Semien both had second and third place votes this year, and Corey Seager is projected to have another great year next year. Gunnar Henderson got some votes, high projection for next year. Kyle Tucker, Bobby Witt Jr. both got votes, high projections next year. You never know if Mike Trout's going to come back and do what he's done before, if he stays healthy for a year. So the field's tough. The field's very tough. Jose would have to really break back out. I thought with the elimination of the shift, you would see a better year for him this year, or a more MVP caliber year. He did not. We know he struggled with Josh Naylor out of the lineup quite a bit. I just think that, I think he can rebound and have a better year than he did this year. I just kind of wonder if those 2018, 2021 years are gone. Like, he could still be a 30-30 player, which might can help him contend for the MVP. I don't know. But I kind of wonder with the field and the way things have gone, if MVP, has kind of fallen out of the sights for Jose Ramirez. I kind of wonder. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think Jose, if you feel like he can contend for another MVP, I sure hope so. Still, I think he's going to have plenty of good seasons ahead of him. All players are victims of father time, unless you're LeBron James, but even he's had issues staying healthy. Hopefully that isn't for Jose Ramirez, but I just kind of wonder if the chance to win MVP has kind of passed him by. The field's good. Things have, he is getting older. You never really know. There's some comments I want to get to from yesterday as well that you left in the comments section that were good questions. We'll take another look at the Guardians starting pitching depth, and I'll quickly run through some players that didn't get added to the 40-man roster. I might not get too deep on those because I still might wait for Jeff to come back next week as he gets over cat scratch fever. Get well, Jeff, and talk about those with him. So stick with us here on Locked On Guardians. All right, some good comments that you guys left yesterday. I got some good questions in the comments you wanted to talk about. Very quickly, too, I wanted to throw this out. So when we do get to 2,000 subscriptions, whatever that is on YouTube, I talked about it might be good to do another full mailbag episode. We'll do those again, but normally we don't do like a full mailbag episode sometimes. Or we might just let one of our listeners pick the topics. We might take a couple topics from a couple of you. So could be a way to get us to 2,000 subscriptions and get some fan interaction as well. I did have a question from somebody who said, believe many viewers like to read the messages you've been taping to the front of your hoodie, but we can't as my microphone covers it and the bottom border covers the rest. I'm not putting any subliminal messages or taping any messages to my hoodie. Actually, it's a hoodie I bought offline. It says, journalism is printing what someone else does not want printed. Everything else is public relations. That's on the hoodie I have. That quote on the hoodie is attributed to George Orwell. I did find out that he didn't actually write that or say that, but I like the quote nonetheless. I think it's a good reminder in this day and age of journalism. So no subliminal messages on my hoodies. Maybe I'll start doing that, though. Maybe I'll start putting messages on there, that in case I'm ever held captive against my will to record these podcasts, that somebody will see the messages and help me out. Somebody mentioned, Kosar said, what about a Rule 5 pick of Hudson Haskin or Matt Gorski? I do like Hudson Haskin. I'd be interested. I don't know about Cleveland's interest because he strikes out a lot, but someone we can definitely talk about when we get to that part of the thing. Someone did correct me and say that Ramon Laureano's projection is $4 million for arbitration, not $6. And let's see what else we had. We had Cal Quantrill had some fantastic mileage from Mike Fingerbottom, but pitching iffy at best, basically T-ball in the playoffs. He was not good in 2022 in the playoffs. Not something you pay $6 million for. And here's how we're going to segue into the pitching depth conversation again, because I feel like people are missing the boat on this. Okay. Yeah, Cal Quantrill is not exactly the top of the projections in terms of a guy that you feel great about paying $6 million for. And I'm very curious to see, okay, here's the other thing about DFAing him too, is Cleveland did try to trade him. They probably are going to trade him. We'll see what offers they get. But obviously there wasn't a lot of interest around the league, or they would have gotten a deal done sooner, perhaps. So projections next year do have Cal having a rough year, 5.10 ERA, 5.12 FIP, and 21 starts over 118 innings. Not a lot of strikeouts. Walk total still pretty low. So yeah, for $6 million, 6.6 million, that's kind of rough. I'm not going to lie. We'll see what the market evaluates in that. Maybe this is as much to me about Cleveland reading the market on Cal Quantrill, thinking nobody else might view him as a $6 million player. So if they are correctly judging that he is not a $6 million player, if somebody else does, I'll be curious to see how that goes. And maybe that's just a team that has a little more financial flexibility from wherever that money comes from. I want to try to get away from money at some point when we talk about baseball, because it's driving me nuts the last 2 days. But as bad as his projections are, and finding someone to replace him and finding that depth also isn't cheap. I think we're gonna have to have a discussion this offseason on what starting pitching is going to cost. We got to look at what it's going to cost in terms of trades or free agent salary and the cost of depth. Got to remind everybody that 14 pitchers started a game for Cleveland last year. We had to watch Daniel Norris make 3 or 4 starts and get DFA'd 3 or 4 times and come back, and claiming Lucas Giolito and having to throw out 2023 version of Noah Syndergaard that wasn't good, that was very broken. That's not good. It's a cry for depth. That's watching the Guardian. Okay, you got great starts almost every time out when you called up Bybee, Allen, and Williams, right? That was great. Those guys all came up and they pitched exactly like you would hope. They were all forced up a little bit sooner than Cleveland had hoped. They were hanging on to some guys they wanted to try to hang on to and squeeze a little more juice out of. They did so with Aaron Savali. They unfortunately caught the injury bug with Bieber and McKenzie, and they could not do more with Zach Plesac and Cal Quantrill. They all got hurt. But see, they started with all those guys. They started with all of them. And you can argue that maybe it wasn't smart to start with Zach Plesac. Maybe it wasn't smart to start with Hunter Gaddis or Cal Quantrill. All those things that happened. But they dipped in. They were able to dip into Bybee, Allen, and Williams last year to help them with their injury issues. Pitchers get hurt. And if they hang on to Bieber, you don't know, because he's been hurt 2 of the last 3 years. McKenzie made 2 starts last year. He's got injury history too. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And the best predictor of future injury is past injury, especially with pitchers. Pitchers get hurt. So you're starting 5 now. You're hoping, if you hang on to Bieber, which, we keep thinking they're going to now, Bieber, McKenzie, Bybee, Allen, Williams. There are some years you get luckier and get more starts from those guys. You may not. Are you going to get 30? You hope so. Everybody needs depth. And, you got Xavier Curry, who, it depends on what you want to do with his role, right? He can be a spot starter. I'm not sure I'd want him starting every 5th day. I like Xavier Curry. Took a picture with him on my wedding day, by the way. Great dude. But I'm not sure you want him starting every 5th day. He's a guy who's a good fill-in when you have an injury to start. A guy that can make 2 starts for you while a guy is recovering from some ailment. You do have Joey Cantillo you can dip into. But again, he has his own injury history, and that's a rookie. Again, do you want to do that long-term? I don't know. Do you want to do Hunter Gaddis again long-term? I think Jeff and I both think he's better as a reliever. And not a guy you want long-term if there's an injury, okay? Daniel Espino, we don't think he's going to be back until May. I have one more thing on him before we get out of here today. We don't know when he's going to be back. He's got an injury history. If he's healthy, though, who cares? If he's healthy, might be great. But, I feel like anything you get from him this year is a bonus, because you just don't know. Cody Morris, injury history. You don't know with him. We don't even know what his role is going to be next year. He's 27. He's never pitched a full season. He could be depth. That would be a good thing. Do you want to keep leaving that guy in AAA? Maybe they move him. I don't know. They're going to have to go out this offseason and acquire some depth. And the question is, what is the cost of that depth, and what is the quality of that depth? Because, you don't want to send any of these 3 rookies down, but get to spring training with 6 starters for 5 spots. And if 6 of them are healthy at the end of spring training, maybe figure it out then, because things happen. And you need to buy time for some of these young guys too. And you need to make sure that you're prepared if something happens, if one of these guys needs a break, or, if McKenzie or Bieber break down because they have injury problems in the past. The cost of depth is expensive, and $6 million for Cal might not be great. We'll see what happens. Maybe there won't be a market for him. Maybe they can get him back at $3 million. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm just saying that you have to consider that 14 pitchers made starts for Cleveland last year, and we'll find out this offseason whether or not Cal Quantrill is a $6 million player or not. He may not be, but what is the cost of depth? What is the cost of starting pitching? And let's be honest. I don't know what I'll do. I'll make some sort of bet with anybody who wants to make a bet, whether or not Cleveland needs more than 6 starters next year, because they absolutely will. Maybe 7. And who are those 7? We don't really know. Beyond the guys I talked about, Morris and Cantillo and maybe Espino and maybe Gaddis. Maybe you get a Will Dion start. That's about where they're at right now. Beyond that, the depth is not really, I'm not really confident in the depth. Like Will Dion might be their best non-40-man starter right now. And he throws 92, throws 91, 92 at best. So we'll see how that goes. I really wanted to get into a few more things today. We did not. I did see a comment on Fangraphs from Eric Longenhagen, who said that Mike Chernoff told him back at the GM meetings that Daniel Espino was on a throwing program. So there might be some communication things there. I'm not sure. So take that with a grain of salt. But Eric's somewhat usually reliable. And if it came from Mike Chernoff, I trust it. Kai Correa is also a coaching free agent. Wanted to mention him. He was a former Cleveland minor league infield instructor. Very well liked here. Wouldn't be surprised to see him brought back if John McDonald doesn't want the third base job. You never know with him. We'll find out. I want to talk about players who didn't get added to the 40-man roster. Didn't get to do that today. Jeff and I want to have some episodes on players that the Guardians can trade for in all 29 teams. We want to talk about Rule 5 picks. We want to talk about reviewing all the positions around the team, starting pitching, first base, third base. We're going to review all those positions and their performances from 2022. And we're going to do that all next week. So thank you for tuning in again this week to Locked On Guardians. Subscribe on YouTube. Get us a 2K. Thanks for listening. And go Guardians, go.